What do you do if you've got some pretty major looking repairs to do? Well, you probably don't just buy the first stuff you can find on Amazon because you can't be bothered to go to the shops. And the trades out there probably be a bit critical about my methods for patching the hole. But hey, this is real life DIY. We don't have the luxury of honing our skills from doing this every day. Chances are you'll be doing your repairs like I do. And when you get results like this, why not? So I thought I'd run this video anyway so you can learn from what I do wrong, and there's some funky stuff you might find useful. Just a quick bit of background so you can understand why we're only doing a cosmetic repair for what looked like pretty major cracks. We removed the load-bearing wall in here as part of the kitchen renovations last year, but the problem was my builders should have supported the wall above with needles, but they decided instead to support it by acroing up the joists either side of the wall. The wall wasn't very happy about that. It flexed down a little bit, and that's why we got the cracking. But 18 months on, there's no sign of movement. Now the steel's in and the wall has been stabilised. So for that reason, I decided to go with a cosmetic repair rather than excavating that wall to rebuild it. And in an old place like this, you can create some big problems when you start to peel the fabric back. So first up, we had this rather large crack in the doorway, and I decided to use this injectable concrete repair resin I used to great effect to fill the cracks in the Tyrolean render on the outside of our cottage. The first job was to clean out as much of the crack as possible to get it ready for the resin. The resin comes in a single tube but has two components inside which are cleverly squeezed out at the same time and mixed in a special nozzle. Now you need to extrude a reasonable amount to get it going. And to emphasise why, check out the difference between this well mixed section and the first section that came out the tube. You get 2 nozzles per tube, so the trick is to get all your work ready and keep applying until you're done, as once the resin has set in the nozzle, you won't be using it anymore. If I'm honest with you, the resin was a year over its sell-by date and started going off pretty quickly, meaning I had to work fast. But I'm happy with how it packed the gap. Unlike with the nozzle, you can carefully reinsert the cap when you're done, and I can pretty much guarantee it'll be good to go next time you use it. The great thing about this stuff is it tools pretty well, and I'm using my Continental filler knives here. Wouldn't do any filling job without them. One tip though, try not to leave the resin level with or proud of the surface, as it goes rock hard, which makes it very hard to sand. More on that in a bit. And so it was onto that large area of missing plaster. Before doing anything, I had to prep the area, and I started off by removing as much loose material as possible from around the damaged area. I also enlarged any cracks in the plaster to give the filler the best possible chance of adhering to the crack. The area to be repaired was quite dusty, so I mixed up some watered down PVA and painted it onto the area. This does a few things. It stabilises it to maximise adhesion, it slows down the setting time of the filler by stopping the surface from sucking water out of the filler, and by carefully forcing the PVA into any still loose areas. What this has done is it's firmed the area up beautifully, because look, there's no movement now on those joints. Same here, look, no movement there at all. I'm very pleased now to be continuing with the next step of the repair. And so on to that next step, let's talk tools and filler. First up, that filler. My go-to filler for jobs like this is Easy Fill, and I recommend this one that contains 5 1kg bags. Handy as you can open one bag for a small job without worrying about all the rest going off. For larger jobs, they've got Easy Fill 20, 45 and 60, which corresponds to the working time of the filler. But I didn't have any Easy Fill on site. It was a Christmas holidays, so I rather lazily went onto Amazon and bought myself a bag of Tetrion Easy On, which, like the Easy Fill snagging version, comes in 10 1kg bags. I've been using their all-purpose filler for other jobs recently, and I've been very pleased with the results. Continental filler knives and small tool. Doesn't feature much today, but it's a fantastic tool for small repairs. Plaster's hook and trowel, because it makes it easier to tool even small amounts of filler. And bucket trowel, useful for transferring the filler from the bucket to the hawk. I also have this pro taping knife, but it gives mixed results, as you'll see. On mixing, the instructions say 2-part filler to 1 part water, but for some reason that left the filler too watery. So I went back to my usual tactic of mixing by eye. You want to end up with a mix like this that's solid enough to hold its shape on a filler knife, but is soft enough to be tooled easily. Be careful not to start with too much water though, because even what looks like a small amount of water like this will take up a huge amount of powder, and you'll end up using much more than you need. So on to repair patch number 1. This was a nice easy one, depth about 5mm, and with a few passes of the plastering trowel I had it to a point that I was pretty happy with. The bigger area was a different story though. The repair here goes up to a good 10mm in depth, so it's not the easiest, but I was confident I could do this in one pass. However, as it happened, I made a bit of a mess of it, and it seemed like each time I retooled the filler, the finish got worse. I should probably have left it half an hour, then retooled with a wet trowel. Plasterers out there, let me know your thoughts in the comments. So in the end, I decided to wet the trowel one final time, do one last pass, and moved on to the next area, as I always knew I could come back to it. And turn my attention to the much straightforward other repairs using my Continental filler knife. And what do I think of this filler? Well, it's similar to the EasyFill 60 in terms of having a 60-minute working time. It doesn't seem to have any noticeable shrinkage, but I personally feel that if I'd used EasyFill, it would have been slightly easier to tool. But that's just an opinion, and having used EasyFill, Tetrion and Tupre, they all seem to be made to pretty much the same formula. Day 2 and a quick sand with my random Orbit sander and a 120 grit trend sanding disc. A pretty important tool this, as when linked to the Henry vacuum there is next to no dust generated. Also useful, an Orbit apply with a 45-degree mitre cut into it for sanding in corners. I then applied a second coat on top. You'll see I'd scratched that first coat, but you really don't need to. Repair number 1 was pretty much done, and the larger repair was now coming together too with that second coat. Another run over with the random Orbit sander to smooth off any rough areas and any slightly raised higher points, and we were done, ready for painting. And for that difficult to sand epoxy resin, I swapped the trend disc for these ceramic alumina discs I bought on Amazon, which did a great job. I then gave it 2 coats of very slightly watered down bare plaster paint, which annoyingly they don't sell anymore in Screwfix. And with that dried, I lightly sanded the edges with some 180 grit before applying the old acrylic top coat, which luckily I had lying around. I'm going to repaint this corridor in a lighter colour, which will brighten it up and remove all the cutting in headaches, because the ceiling and walls will be the same colour. But for the time being, I reapplied the darker colour and made a half decent job of cutting in with the help of this brilliant Worcester paintbrush. So all in all, a pretty good filler. Doesn't really sag, doesn't flash, it actually painted up really nicely. And I'll post a link to that and to the other bits that I think you might find quite useful in the description below the vid. Let me know what you think, and also how you think I could have made the job slightly easier. That's it for me this week. I'm back to the banquette seating project. That will be my next video. I know I keep promising it, but that's all I'm doing from now on. So stay tuned, and updates will be coming out on that shortly. In the meantime, if you're new to my channel, it would mean so much to me to have you subscribe. You can do that by clicking on the link here, and don't forget to click the bell notification icon so you get notified of all my future uploads. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.